I'm Dave. This is the Cyderbaby show, and today I'm talking to Tizane. Hello.
Hello,
How are you? You're looking well.
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm surviving, struggling on as us DJ hosts do,
Yeah.
wittering on to people who don't listen to us. But never mind. That's enough about me. We're here to talk about you. You've got a new album on the way out. Is it next week or the end of this week?
It's Friday.
Friday. Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Forever is Nothing.
Yeah, forever is nothing.
Um, this isn't your first radio, is it? It's your second album.
Yes, this is my second album now. Yeah, it feels like my debut album though. My first album sort of felt like stepping stones, and then this album feels like it feels like my first album.
Really? So just
Yeah,
just everything's fresh, everything's hot off the press, as it were. And
yeah. And it's all I feel like I've found my sound. I've found the people, my band, they are brilliant, and I didn't know them when I made my first album. So
right.
yeah, it's exciting.
Okay. So tell me, your sound is quite unique. I mean,
Thank you.
you lull me into a false sense of security, thinking you're going to be like this nice, gentle singer-songwriter type of lady, and then you go off on a nice rockier edge, and it takes you to places where I'd never thought it would go. So this is great stuff. The whole album is just for me.
Thank you.
I
Oh,
mean, my favorite track. I'll start with my favorite track, When Ravens
go
Leave.
on.
When the Ravens
Yeah.
Leave. Right, go on. Tell me about that track.
That track is, as you were describing how it sort of tricked you into thinking that it's a little singer-songwriter song, then it turns rocky. We call it, I mean, me and the band have started calling it a bit Beauty and the Beast, because it
Right.
starts all like calm and simple. And When the Ravens Leave is actually a perfect example of that, because the whole start is, a finger picked sort of nice little melody, and then it turns into craziness. And I think with a lot of my songs, including When the Ravens Leave, it's the way that I write and the music, it all follows the lyrics on an emotional level.
Yeah.
So if it starts off all pretty and stuff, that's how the emotions are, and then it gets more intense. And When the Ravens Leave was one of them songs where it got a lot more intense, and yeah, got
Okay.
bigger.
Well, what are the lyrics about? Is there anything specific in the lyrics? Because it seems quite a dark song as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit. I like to write sort of dark songs, but they're not always interpreted as dark. Like, people can interpret them however they want, which I really
Mm,
love. It's like a little bit cryptic. That song is about sort of preparing for, the saying, like, when the ravens leave like the tower.
yeah.
It's sort of and it says like London will fall and stuff. It's sort of the metaphorically saying that I won't fall when someone leaves. Like, when all the bad stuff happens, I'm not gonna like bow down to that. I'm gonna keep going, sort of thing.
Okay. Cool. Um, I mean, I've got out of the whole album, I've probably marked six of the tracks I really like. Small World. I mean, that's got quite an amazing riff on that to start with as well.
My guitarist, I'll let him know you said that. He'll be
Yeah.
very, very grateful. Yeah, he thought of
Give him
it.
a
And
shout out. Go on.
oh, it's Charlie Harris. He's
Okay.
such a talented guy. He's amazing, and he wrote
Yeah.
that riff in about 1 second, and we were all like, yes, 100%.
So what's that track about then?
Small World is actually about how, I mean, I wrote it not that long ago, but it was from the perspective of my 16-year-old self. Now I'm
Right.
about to turn 22, but yeah, so it was sort of from a perspective of finding everything really overwhelming, and there
Mm.
just being loads of people and loads of everybody. You know how, have you ever like people watch when you're in like a car and you sort of look at someone, you're like, I wonder what they're doing. Like, I wonder
Yeah.
where they're going. It's like that, like the thought of how everybody's got something going on, a whole life. You're not the main character. It's crazy, but yeah, that song is sort of about sort of the overwhelmingness of everything, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a step back away from the music there. I mean, you just mentioned you're 22. How
Yeah.
old were you when you got into music? When did you know that you were going to be a singer?
Um, I I don't remember a day where I didn't want to be a singer.
Right,
I know that from when I was like 5 or 6, that's when I started performing on stage.
right.
Um, yeah, and then I remember every night I'd always say to my mum, I want to be a singer when I'm older, I want to be a singer. And yeah, now it's, I feel like I'm at a really nice spot because it's I do this full time, which is incredible.
Mm,
And there's not too much going on, there's not too little going on. It's sort of like the perfect medium, and it's really nice. But yeah, my whole life always wanted to sing, always been singing. My mum sings, so
yeah.
yeah.
So did you follow through education for places like BIM and places like colleges and universities like that, or did you just take a normal, sane educational step? Or
My education history is awful actually. I I I didn't get very many GCSEs
Mhm.
because it was just when I was taking my GCSEs, I just wasn't, I was ill, and like I think I had tonsillitis, gastritis, and some other itis. I had three
Right.
itises, so I only got three GCSEs,
Yeah.
and then I went off to music college,
Yeah.
and I did that for a year, and then I dropped out because it was a really cool experience, like performing on the stages there and stuff, but it wasn't for me. I dropped out, and my parents were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Please, just trust me." I dropped out and started making songs in my bedroom, started learning, recording and all that.
Mm. It can be quite formulated, college like that, and
Yeah,
you're performing to a standard set by tutors, shall we say?
yeah, it's yeah. I've always been pretty not against it, but I'm very I like doing my own thing when it
Hmm.
comes to music and like a passion. I wanna take my own time and explore.
Yeah. So when you're songwriting, then in your bedroom, as it were, are you coming up with the melody and the riffs and everything, or most of the riffs, we should say, um, for yourself, then producing it to the band to interpret, or are you just saying, right, here we
Um,
go?
it's it's weird because at the moment I write the song on like an acoustic or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll write the melody, I'll write everything, and then I'll bring it to rehearsal and I'll be like, "Oh, I've got this new song to show you." I'll show the band, and within seconds everybody has they know the whole thing in their head of what they're gonna do. So like my drummer will be like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this here, I'm gonna do that there." And oftentimes in rehearsal, I'll go to my drummer, and I feel like it's a really classic guitarist thing to do because I'm a guitarist as well,
Right.
is to go up to a drummer and be like, "Oh, do this." And then he'll be like, "Okay," and then he'll just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Brilliant." But yeah, I normally sort of have the whole thing in my head. But the guys, they're just so incredible. They'll just put their own touch on it, and like Charlie, like the Small World, will add his riff and just stuff that make it really memorable and unique to them, and it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the album then. I mean, why not me? I mean, that's quite a track in itself. It's a single as well, yes?
I don't think it is a single.
Oh, all right, I was going to play it on the radio. Perhaps I won't then.
Play it.
All
No,
right.
no, you have to play it now.
I have to play it now, yeah.
Yeah, that song's actually one of I think that might be my favorite on the album.
Really?
Maybe.
No, you've
Yeah,
just
it was.
stolen one of my questions now. I was going to ask you what your favorite
Oh, well,
is.
there
That's
you
it.
go. Because I can read minds.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, through the screen. But yeah, that one,
There's not
it's
a
a
lot to
really
read,
cool
trust
one.
me.
There's nothing to read in mine either. But yeah,
Right,
why not
back to the
me?
song. Back to the song.
Song.
God.
Yeah, yeah, that one's a good one because I had a sort of brief idea for it. Then I brought it to rehearsal with no plans of us doing a new song. I showed them my very, very brief like verse that I'd written for it. And then immediately we all just went on a tangent, and I remember my manager just like walked in the room and we were just playing this new song, and it was like it sounded completely finished and we'd literally written it like 5 minutes beforehand. And it was a really fun rehearsal actually. That was probably the most fun time I've had writing a song with them because it was so natural. It just sort of like spilled out of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did the collaboration with Rob Davis come about then?
Um, that was I went to the BBC Club and I did a little show there, which was a really cool experience. And he was actually in the audience,
Okay.
and yeah, it was really cool. And he come up to me after, and he just really like casually said, like I knew who he was. I'd got a picture with him as well. Like I felt like a little fangirl, and he just really casually was like, "Well, if you want to write a song together, just let me know." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool." And then I ran away to my manager and was like, George, he just said this, he just said this." And George was like, "Oh my God, take him up on it." And I was like, "Obviously." And then, yeah, I messaged him, went round his house. He showed me all these little ideas he had, and we went with one, we rolled with it, and it come out a really cool sort of poppy, rocky song. It was, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So you're not afraid to collaborate with other writers then, yes? It's,
Um, no, I'm not, but I used to be. I used to be really independent because
right.
music's such a big passion of mine. Like, I think a lot of people are quite similar in the sense of you sort of just want to do everything yourself because you want it to be exactly how you're imagining it.
Yeah.
Um, but over the years, I've sort of realised that there's a lot of other people that can bring in ideas that you would have literally never thought of in a million years, and it's just like, oh my God, that's perfect. And then you just come up with some cool stuff. So yeah, I'm open to collaborations now.
Okay. Okay. I mean, you've got some people you've worked with. I've got my notes here to decide. I'm not looking away from you. I'm just looking at my
That's all
notes.
right, no worries.
I mean, the album's engineered by Pat Collier.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, he's got
Yeah.
what Jesus and Mary Chain, Primal Scream, and X-Ray Specs.
Mm.
You're working with quite well-established people here.
Yeah, it's really cool. I feel, I mean, with Pat, I remember being in a pub. I was doing an open mic just with my friends, which I occasionally do in my free time. I'll just pop to an open mic and have a little play. And I was in a pub and my manager come in and he was like, "Oh, I've spoken to this guy who has a studio," and he started telling me all about him. And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool. Like, what's he like?" And he was like, um yeah, so he's worked with this person, these, and I was thinking, who are they? Because I'm so young, I just don't know who anyone is. The only person I
Ah,
know exists is like Ariana Grande. No, I'm not that bad, but I know a lot of artists, but I didn't know some of these names, and I sort of become really uneasy because I was imagining a really old man. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna go in the studio with an old man and we're gonna write like 70s pop music or something. And then I went in there and I met him, and he was like the coolest, most chilled out guy ever. And his studio's fantastic, and he's just very relaxed, and like he's so on top of it, and really, yeah, really cool guy, really cool.
he seems to have got the best out of you. Looking at the rest of the album, I mean, it's not a bad track on the album, so
Thank you, I appreciate that.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
no,
That's okay. Um,
he's a cool guy.
okay. Andy Blade, you seem to be working with him as well.
Yeah, that was really random actually with Andy Blade. How did that come about? Um, I think that was from my PR,
Mm,
and then I met up with Andy Blade just to do. We had like a little meeting, and I sort of met him, and I saw that he was just again like a really chilled out, cool guy. Because you never know what to expect when you're meeting like people, musicians. I feel like they're either really, really cool and chilled out or really uptight and
yeah.
scary. But yeah, I met him and he was really cool. And he asked me to do a song with him, and I was like, yeah, 100%. And then I went round his house, we recorded it. Then I did a gig with him recently, which was really cool. And we're doing another gig in December. is really cool. But yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed Andy. Oh, must have been a couple of months ago now, I suppose. And
All
yeah,
right.
such a nice guy. Just
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
you
he was
must
lovely.
you must have opened. Was it the Brighton gig? I believe.
Yes, Brighton.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was that? Because I sort of wanted to go to that, but
Oh, you should
obviously
have.
I'm miles away. I'm in the middle of
Oh,
nowhere in Devon.
excuses,
Oh
excuses.
yeah.
No, it was really good gig though. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was. I don't really gig up Brighton. I really want to, but it's quite hard to sort of establish yourself in a different area. Like I'm pretty on top of it in Camden. We
yeah,
don't, I'm always gigging in Camden. I love it there, but it's quite a bit more difficult to move to different places. So getting to go and do that gig in Brighton was a cool experience in itself, let alone doing it with Ita, which was really cool.
yeah. So we're talking about gigs. I mean, what have you got coming up?
I have the 13th of July, which is at the Dublin Castle, which
Hmm.
is normally I'm gigging so often, like maybe once a week, but I've had a little break. So that'll be my first gig back. So we'll have some new stuff to perform. Um, and yeah, I think I've got 23rd. They're on my website because I'm not
Okay,
trusting. I've got my calendar here and I'm not trusting it because sometimes things get cancelled and no one deletes it. So
right.
my website is tizane.net, Tizane.net, and it's got all the dates on there. So if anybody's interested in coming along, then yeah, yeah, then they're all on there.
Okay. Is the album going to be on a physical release as well as streaming, or have you?
Yeah, we've got some really cool art for it as well. So we've got CDs, vinyls, um, everything. All lots of merch, physical merch coming out.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do some competitions on like Instagram to win some free merch and stuff. So that'll be pretty cool.
Instagram, that's that young person's
Mm,
platform, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I assume everything can be pre-ordered through your website as well.
To my knowledge, yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's the sales pitch out of the way anyway. So
Cool.
right. So what's next for you? I mean, you've got the album out on Friday, you've got a gig coming up in about 3 weeks' time. So, what are you
Um,
looking forward to yourself?
I'm looking forward to it all, but I really don't know what's gonna happen. Like, because the first time I released my first album so long ago now, and I sort of I've like grown a lot since then. Like, I'm a lot busier now, which is amazing. But at the time, I don't actually remember what happened after my album came out, my first album. I was sort of just there, like, what do I do now? So I'm hoping, I think, anyways, that after Friday, we're just gonna gig and gig and gig and get
Hmm.
ourselves all over the place. And yeah, and we'll probably very, very soon start working on future future music as well. I think that'll just come naturally.
Yeah.
But we haven't really got a schedule or plans. We'll just see what happens.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We'll tie it up there. The
Thank
album is
you.
out on Friday the 23rd. It is called
Yeah.
Forever Is Nothing. And go on,
Yeah.
tell me another favorite track of yours. You can't choose the same
Oh,
one again. Come on, change another one people must listen to.
probably I'm Not Her. I love I'm Not Her.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Tizane.
Thank you so much for having me.